I've been forced to bug out because currently the UK is in a state of emergency. Hot weather has been forecast for this week in July. Schools are threatening closure, and they certainly won't be letting the kids out to play at playtime. They're going to keep them indoors away from all the sun and vitamin D, make sure they don't get too physically active, maybe put them in front of a computer screen or something. That'll probably do them some good. There are posters up in London warning people to drink water to stay alive. I can see a lockdown coming on, and understandably so. And I think this really highlights the importance of us all buying electric cars and supporting the rise in energy costs to compensate for the fact that we don't produce any coal or gas of our own anymore and ship it from abroad, while we focus on solar and wind energy. This heat wave in July, can you imagine it? Thank God the government are looking after us. I think those posters telling people to drink water are very important. Though I have this weird thing, when I'm dehydrated, I get this kind of sensation in my throat and my tongue, like thirst, I guess you could call it. But I don't know if it's just me. Oh God. I almost made my head sweat. But yeah, the state of emergency has been declared. Like, it's a running joke in the UK that when we have a bit of snow or like infrastructure grinds to a halt and we just can't seem to handle it for some reason. But now, even in the heat, like a hot summer, a hot week in July is now being treated like an emergency. It's more fear porn from the government and the media.
This country.
But it is a good excuse for me to come out camping. I have actually been really enjoying the weather this year. I mean, I must admit, I have noticed a lot of the local rivers and ponds have either halved in size or completely dried up, because we have had a really dry summer, well, dry year so far. We've hardly had any rain whatsoever. Even through the January through March, it was very sunny, at least where I live, which is great for me because I can go out driving in the car with the heating on and pretend it's summer, and then start going out more as it does get warmer. You know, I love it, but it is a problem for wildlife that all these water sources are drying up. Though I don't see the need for a public panic to be stirred up by the media or the government the way they're trying to. Gone for an old school bicycle camp out, loaded up all my gear on the back there. Been a few years since I've done this on the bike actually. Got bags on either side with equipment in. There's also bottle pouches on either side of the bag, as well as my bottle that's in the frame there, and I've got a 2-litre canteen around my torso. Tent, sleeping bag and sleeping mat all on the top there. See the other water bottle and other gear in that side. It balances really nicely. It was a really smooth ride here. I actually don't have anything against green energy and sustainable energy, solar panels and all that, but I do think a lot of it's marketing BS that they're trying to push on us just to get us to pay more and buy more stuff we don't need. Bought a 24-hour ration pack with me, I'll go through later. Folding saucepan. Gas stove, just fancied something nice and simple today. A plastic cup I got years ago for free, that I thought would be good for camping. My new EDC knife, spork, lighter, and this Olight flashlight, which I got sent to me for free actually, to shill it basically, but I'll give a honest look at that later on. I've been using it for a few weeks now actually, and it's pretty good. And then my toiletries kit there, soap and toothpaste, towel, toothbrush. Got about 4.5 litres of water with me, so hopefully that'll last. And of course I bought the folding stool that will fit in the pocket of your cargo pants. And the old Quest stick table. Let me get a coffee on the go first. Nescafe Original, some powdered milk. I've been out a lot so far this summer doing stuff, cycling, running. Went to a fun fair for the Queen's Jubilee. There's a concert in the forestry, which is really fun. Next week I plan on going canoeing and roller skating. A great summer so far. It's nice getting out here though, and I feel like I kind of need to get out and appreciate this while I can, because there's just so much development going on at the minute, more and more farmland and countryside being ploughed over around where I live. I'm increasingly worried that it's going to close in on where I specifically live, because at the minute I can leave my home, there's a dirt track, goes into the forestry. I'm not stuck in the middle of loads of houses, or like I'm stuck in the middle of a village or a town or anything. I'm right on the outskirts, facing into the forestry and farmland, and it's really beautiful. But the farmer who owns that land has recently fenced off a lot of those fields and just let it to be kind of set aside, and I do worry that he's setting it up for maybe in 10 years time or something, hopefully selling it off to be developed. Hopefully in his case, obviously not in my case. Because I've noticed with a lot of these farmers, even you know, farms I've worked for in the past, when they get to a certain age, even though they've got a passion for farming, they don't have anyone to hand it down to. Their kids aren't interested, and so once they get to a certain age and they realise in 10 years time or whatever, I'm going to have to retire, they do start to make plans for that land to be able to be sold off and concreted over, sadly. It's all part of the madness of our modern society, where we want to pave over all the farmland to build more high density housing estates with no farmland to produce food to feed everyone who lives in those housing estates. My friend actually lives on one of these new housing estates, and it's a really nice one. It's not like it's cheap. I mean, they're expensive houses, they're big houses, and it's all very nice, but there's a soullessness to it. And also there's no privacy because it's so high density. Even in this, because he earns a lot of money, this is a really nice house he's got, but there are 10 other houses that look down into his back garden because of how high density it all is, because of the way they've designed it to pack in as many houses as possible. But 10 houses all looking down into his back garden, and this is how people who are pretty well off are now expected to live. Also, what makes me laugh about that place is that it's got a designated outdoor space, that has been built for the people that live there. Once again, because it's a reasonably well-to-do area, they get their own designated outdoor space, but it's literally just a big field of dead grass that people can walk around in a circle. There's even a bench there so that you can sit and stare out at the big empty field of grass. It's like something like Father Ted, when they would joke about how there's nothing on Craggy Island to do, just go and walk in the field. But this is their designated outdoor space. And to me, this is all this kind of Orwellian stuff that I would read in comic books in the 80s about the future, where there's no real outdoor spaces left. It's all just sort of manufactured, artificial outdoor spaces, which is what I kind of class that as. Like, you've just got a big empty field, and that's your outdoor space you can enjoy. Speaking of the Orwellian nightmare that we live in, there's a load of stuff I moaned about last year. I did a kind of end-of-year review last December, and god damn if things haven't gotten worse. Like, I complained about cameras everywhere. They've gone mad this year, building cameras everywhere. I can't, it's incredulous. Every time I go out now, the new cameras that have been installed everywhere. Roadworks I complained about, that's gotten worse this year. It's goddamn everywhere. They're ploughing up the place. I went on a road trip up north, and I was on a 4-lane highway, motorway. 3 out of the 4 of the goddamn lanes were closed in the middle of the day, and the traffic was just crawling along at 20 miles an hour. Then there's just completely mental stuff, like someone got called Shorty at a school in the UK, and when I was at school, Shorty would have been a tame insult. You wouldn't bat an eyelid if someone called you Shorty on the playground when I was at school. But somehow the police got involved. I don't know if the kid called the police, or the teachers called the police, or the kid's parent, which is probably the most likely case, called the police because their kid got called Shorty. And the police actually were willing to get involved in this, and the person who called the other kid Shorty got registered as having taken part in a non-crime hate incident. So, and that's on his record apparently for 5 or 6 years, that he was involved in a non-crime. Like, I laugh at this stuff because it's ridiculous, but it's also terrifying that you can now be done in the UK for a non-crime, and that can go on your record for 6 years. That you've been involved in a non-crime incident. This is terrifying stuff. A policeman got put in prison for like 4.5 months because he shared a meme in a private WhatsApp conversation about George Floyd, St. George. And I don't have any sympathy for him specifically because he's a copper, and I'm sure he would have been more than happy to have bestowed such a sentence and such punishment on other people that he'd caught out. So he kind of got a taste of his own medicine. But in general, like, you can't have a private joke now in a private WhatsApp message with just, you know, a specific group of your friends, without that getting you put in prison. And the bizarre thing is, if you get caught with kiddie diddling pictures as a first time offence, I don't think that's a custodial sentence. So you could get away with that, but if you share a meme joking about St. George Floyd, you will get put in prison for 4.5 months. Madness. There was also a comedy show where somebody paid money to go to this comedy show, got offended by one of the jokes and called the police, and the police came along for that. The entitlement of these people. Like, you think that because you were offended, or your little darling child was offended being called Shorty, or there was a joke that offended you, means that you have the right to get the police involved. There's such a sense of entitlement there. The arrogance of it, that you think that your feelings are that important. But then the police are happy to go along with it because they love anything easy like that they can deal with. Call them about your car being stolen or your house being burgled, they're not interested. It's just too much hard work. I've absolutely no idea what any of this is about, but I just saw it on a stall and it was for free. It's like a marketing thing for whatever the hell this is. And I thought, seeing as it's plastic, that'd make a good camping mug. I'm not going to moan on too much in this video about current affairs and stuff like that, don't worry. It's just, like, I don't like to spread negativity like that, because that's what the mainstream media do. I don't want to sort of start spreading this stuff that you guys might not have even heard about or care about otherwise, and then it pisses you off. But at the same time, there's things that I consider Orwellian. I I think it's so important that we're all aware that this is going on. Because it's not even like, last year I think I said we were heading towards an Orwellian future. This year we're here. I mean, with things like that I've just told you happening in the UK, we're not heading towards an Orwellian future. We are in an Orwellian world already, and it's only going to get worse. Hopefully at some point there will be an uprising against this. I mean, we're seeing it in other countries, you know, the farmers, and in some other countries there's been an uprising against the Prime Minister because of the rising cost of everything and that. And the whole thing against the farmers, I mean, that's just crazy. It's all about control though, isn't it? They want us to be weak. I think there's a big push taking advantage of events that have happened in the last couple of years to make us weaker, you know, financially weaker, so that people can't retire earlier, people can't work part-time, people can't be self-employed as easily. We all have to be more dependent on the rich businesses to keep us employed and us working for them until we're ready to hit the grave. They want us more dependent on the government with all the fear-mongering. They want us more dependent on the police. The media want us more dependent on them. That's why there's this big push with sort of silly nonsense like being offended being the worst thing in the world, and that you should run off to a safe space and call the police if you're offended. And the media seem to kind of encourage this, a lot of mainstream media, and to obsess over skin colour and gender identity politics and all this nonsense. And I swear it's all to make us weaker. They want us to be emotionally weaker so that we're more easy to control. Same with what I see in the media, which I feel is trying to demonise heterosexual relations. You know, there's a push to make men more feminine, women more masculine, so we don't find each other attractive anymore. Any non-heterosexual relationships are celebrated, and yet heterosexual desires are kind of looked down upon now. Like, there's a story about a bunch of squatties who had a few gangbangs. There was this girl who lived locally who was up for it, and she would go there and they'd have big old gangbangs, and one of the gangbangs got filmed and it got out into the media, and of course they had a field day with it, and you know, they were saying, oh, it's so degrading for the poor woman involved. And it's not like she got drunk one night and sort of did it and regretted it. She was going back there multiple times to do it, so she was enjoying it. What was degrading to her was probably having her name and face splashed all over the newspapers and the TV. But these squatties got reprimanded for it, and you know, the higher ups in the military were terribly embarrassed by it all. And it's like, why? We're happy for these poor guys to go out and be cannon fodder, go into some shithole country stuck in a war zone to potentially have their heads blown off. Like, let them have some fun beforehand, Jesus Christ. Beautiful day. And I feel like all this stuff is to demoralise us. Make men and women not find each other as attractive anymore. Make people feel ashamed of themselves. You know, let's push all this sort of critical race theory in schools so that kids are constantly concerned about their skin colour and ashamed about their skin colour, ashamed to be masculine. Women feel like they have to be more masculine, but men have to be ashamed of being more masculine. I mean, no wonder so many kids are having mental health problems. But I swear there is a deliberate effort to weaken us, to make us all emotionally weak, so we're more easy to control, more dependent on the powers that be. Yeah, I had this Olight Seeker 3 sent to me to do a review of and featuring some videos. So I'll have a closer look at that later on. But I've had it for a couple of weeks now, and it is really good actually. Also bought myself a new EDC knife, a UK legal one. But I'm not quite sure how UK legal it is, even though it's marketed as UK legal. The blade, it really depends where you measure it from as to whether it's under 3 inches or not. I can just about open it one-handed with a bit of effort, which is nice. Got a nice plastic handle with grip on it, so it feels comfortable to use. and it holds pretty tight open as well, so I don't feel worried that that's going to fold down on my fingers. But the thing with the measurements on this blade is, if you measure it from the highest point of the handle to the tip of the blade, it's just under 3 inches. But if you measure it from the bottom of the blade there, or the bottom there, it's about 1 millimetre over 3 inches. So if Officer Dibble came along when I was out using this to cut open the box of an action figure or something innocent like that, and he decided to measure it from the bottom there or there, he could then have me. Whereas if he measured it from the highest point of the handle, like I say, it is slightly under 3 inches. Though personally, I always class this bit here as the blade, not the tang at the bottom there. So I don't know if anyone knows specifically how it would be measured, because it's actually quite difficult to find anything online that specific about how the blade would be measured. Is it the whole piece of metal itself? Is it just the part that's sharpened there? On a knife like this where it's curved at the top of the handle, which part would be measured, at the bottom there or at the highest point? Because otherwise it could potentially be a bit dodgy. Even though it's only 1 millimetre over, you know what the police are like, they'd have a field day with that. There's a nice belt clip on the back there as well. Quite a long belt clip too, so it feels secure if I put that over my pocket or whatever to make sure it doesn't fall out. I also brought a book with me I've been reading. It's Stranger Things, Hawkins Horrors. It's kind of an anthology book of horror stories, because I'm massively into Stranger Things at the minute. I was massively into it a few years ago when seasons 1 and 2 came out. Then season 3 put me off and I kind of forgot about it. But season 4 was magnificent. So I'm back into that again, and I've been reading this book. For anyone who's into Stranger Things, this book is basically an anthology of different stories set around Hawkins, and the framing device is that the teens who live in Hawkins go to the video store one night to watch a horror movie with Steve and Robin, but the power goes out, so they all end up telling each other sort of creepy stories that they've heard about the town. And there's one that's set at the asylum where Victor Crowley's held, there's one at Lover's Lake, one about Dungeons and Dragons. So it's quite a fun you know, sort of framing device around these stories. And I love anthology horror. I'm a big fan of Tales from the Crypt and stuff like that. So that combined with Stranger Things is quite fun for me. I'm about halfway through it, so I thought it'd be enjoyable to finish reading that tonight. There's dead wood everywhere around here, so plenty of good thin kindling for a fire later. I got this bicycle helmet, which is styled like a kind of tactical helmet, which, one, I just thought was fun, but also it's actually kind of handy because you can attach things to it, like this light on the side there, which is handy when I'm cycling along to have a light attached, but also when I'm out here I can just whack this on my head and I've basically got a head torch there. I'm sporting this short sleeve camouflage shirt which my mum made back in the 80s for my dad, because he's really into nature photography, so he would wear a lot of camo gear to go out and sort of blend in so that he wouldn't scare birds and things off that he was trying to photograph. And mum made this for him, but as he sort of put on weight as he got older and it didn't fit him, he handed it down to me when I was a kid, and I would wear it all the time when I was playing armies. And I actually haven't really worn it for years, but it still fits me because it's, you know, relatively big and baggy, so I thought I'd start using it, and it's quite a nice cool thin material to have on. I kind of cobbled together this 24-hour ration pack with bits and bobs that I had lying around from other ones that I hadn't used. So I put some Dettol wipes in there, they're quite handy. Then I've got some dark chocolate, commando bar, chocolate cake, nice, some masala and some rice as well there. This is a vegetable and chickpea biryani. I think this is a vegetarian all-day breakfast. Then I've got some raisins, currants and sultanas, one of those biscuits browns that I haven't actually tried one of those yet, really should do, and a cereal bar as well. so that'll definitely keep me going for 24 hours. And then this bag here's just got teas and coffees in, and some powdered milk. I actually wish I'd bought my other mess kit that I normally use with me, because it has a nice little plastic container that I can stick these in when I'm eating them. But I just fancied a change really, so I grabbed the gas stove. It's only 9:30, but it's quite dark already here because I'm in the shelter of the trees. But if it wasn't so shaded here, it'd be quite light still, because it's been staying light until about 11 o'clock time where I live, and even then it's not pitch black, it's just a very dark blue sky. And you can still see a bit of orange to the west, which is nice. I'll try the chocolate cake now, see what that's like. Looks good. The label for my tent has come off the packaging, so I guess this is going to go on the fire. 2015 I bought this tent. $12.99, that's a bargain. That can go on the fire now. With this flashlight here, it's not in focus, but you can adjust the light settings on it to make it brighter, like that, or dimmer. It's got quite a range of lumens that it goes from duller to lighter. You can also have it flashing as a strobe effect like that, or just the regular light. There's actually a summer fair going on a few miles from here. Don't know if you can hear it on the camera. Don't know if the camera microphone will pick it up, but it's actually quite nice listening to the concert going on in the background. There's a bit of Killers earlier on. A bit of My Sex Is On Fire. Teenage Dirtbag. So many of these little beetles about. Got a lovely blue purpley shine to them. The view outside the tent. Almost 10 AM, so it's a bit early, but I suppose I better get up. The old mopper comb. My little emergency hairbrush, just a big brush that I broke the handle off of basically. A good night's sleep. It can be touch and go when you're camping, whether you're going to get a good night's sleep or not really, but yeah, I slept pretty much straight through last night. It's quite nice. And it was nice listening to the music from the fair down the road. It was about 2 miles away, I guess, so I could hear it pretty clearly. Bought one of these little sample toothpaste bottles you can get from the dentist, or sometimes on the websites for these companies they give them away, and I've got this little camping toothbrush that folds away. When I got up last night for a wee, I kind of blundered over the stove and knocked all my cooking water out of the pot, so that was a bit of a waste. Another troubling Orwellian thing that I've heard rumblings of is basically they want to create a ministry of truth. They want to have this governing body that sort of looks over the internet and information that's allowed out there and stamp down on misinformation. But of course it comes down to who's deciding what's misinformation. It just seems like another way to control the narrative, control what information people are allowed access to, stop people from researching things themselves. Because we know we can't trust the mainstream media, that there are so many things in the news that they underreport and misreport, and yet they want to limit our ability to be able to look for information ourselves and think for ourselves and make decisions for ourselves that they don't like. Alright, give you a look at this flashlight that I got sent me. It's in quite a nice pouch. It's got 2 loops on the back that you can put on your belt. There's one for smaller belts which is sewn on, so it's sewn at the bottom there, so it's pretty secure, and then you can put your smaller thinner belt through there. Or if you've got a thicker belt, there's this one here which buttons up, and that can also be used to attach it to a pack or something. There's also a plastic D-loop at the top there to attach it to a pack, and there's a button at the front there that you press, you know, just basic plastic clip to open it up. Slide that out, this like grommet in the bottom there, stop it from filling with water or anything. Then the torch slash flashlight itself, pretty solid. I mean, this thing feels like it would take a bit of a beating. It's got rubber grip on either side there, moulded for your fingers, and 3 finger grooves on each side, so it's comfortable to hold. And you've got the button on the top here to activate it, but if you just press it, nothing happens. You have to spin that button a few times to unlock it, which is actually quite handy, because if you've got this in your pack or attached to your belt and you accidentally knock it and were to turn it on, that would drain all the battery then when you go to use it, it's no good. So I do quite like this feature, even though it takes a bit of getting used to, that you have to just spin that a few times to turn it on. Now with this button, on this side, when you turn the wheel and turn it on, it will show you how much battery is left. See those 4 green lights there. And bearing in mind, I've been using this flashlight all last night, it's still fully charged. And I spin that to show me how much battery is left, all 3 green lights are on. Then on the other side, when you turn it, the green lights indicate how many lumens you're using, so you can gradually turn that up to full power. Or turn it down for a dimmer light. And obviously the more lumens you're using, the quicker the battery's going to run out. But as I say, this was the only light source I was using last night. And so for a good few hours I was using this, and the battery hasn't gone down at all, so that's pretty impressive. Just got Olight Seeker 3 Pro written on the side there. And to charge this up, I've never had a flashlight like this before. You get a charger with it that you can plug into a USB port or plug it into a plug with a USB connector to it. But when you put it on the end there, it actually magnetizes on to charge up. Now if I open it up, I'll show you the battery that comes with it. Olight brand battery. I assume you can get spares of those if it ever goes wrong. There is a little hole in the end there where you can put a lanyard if you want, but it doesn't come with a lanyard. I don't tend to use them very much, but it would have been nice if it was included. But if you've got one spare, you can put it in there. It's got a kind of beveled edge there, tactical style. And there are 4 bulbs. So you magnetise the charger on the top there. You see it's gone red there because it's charging. That will turn to green once it's fully charged. Now they've actually got a summer sale on at the minute, so I'll leave a link in the description of this video if you're interested in checking it out. So I'll leave a link in the description to where you can get these from. As I say, this was sent to me for free, so there is an element of shilling to this, I'll admit. But I am giving my honest opinion of it as well, and it is a really good little flashlight. So check it out if you're into that sort of thing, like me, who can never get enough torches and flashlights. I would say I got a ridiculous amount now. Knives and flashlights, more than I will ever use. It's also quite handy for me because it fits in this bracket that I have on my bicycle. So I can use it as a bike light as well. I have a commando bar and then do some exercises. I've got this layer of fat that I really want to burn off, which I'm struggling with, because at the minute I've been wanting to build up muscle but also burn off fat, and the two together are actually quite difficult because to build up muscle you need to be eating a lot of protein, but if you're taking a lot of protein that's a lot of calories, and so you're then not really burning off that many calories because you're taking in so many. So I guess I need to decide between one or the other. Very shaded here, so I know you can't see me very well. But when I went to buy this knife the other day, I looked in a couple of stores. I looked in Go Outdoors, which is a kind of high street, mainstream UK outdoor store, and I looked in an Army Surplus. And the massive difference in quality and price between the two. Go Outdoors, I was surprised because I looked at the clothing, I looked at pretty much everything in there, and a lot of the clothing felt kind of cheap. It wasn't clothing that I would necessarily want to wear outdoors, and the knife selection was pretty limited as well. Whereas in the Army Surplus store, there's far better gear, and that's why I prefer wearing army surplus clothing most of the time when I'm out here, because it's just far better quality and more hard wearing. It lasts, it's built to last. It also blends in more. I find mainstream outdoor clothing, I always want to make it quite bright and colourful, whereas when I'm outdoors I want to blend in with my surroundings. I don't want to be too obtrusive out here. You know, I come here to get away from the regular human world. I don't want to come here and be too bright and garish. I like blending in with it all. The army store was, you know, about the same price, if not sometimes cheaper, when it came to the 24-hour ration packs. In Go Outdoors they sell the ready-to-eat meals separately. You can't buy a 24-hour pack, and to buy them separately they're about £5 a meal. So making a 24-hour ration pack from Go Outdoors' selection would cost you at least double what it costs to buy a regular 24-hour ration pack, which are about £12, £13, maybe £15, depending where you get them from. I hope I haven't gone on about too many negative things. I don't want to start doing it too much, going on about problems that I see going on in the world, but it's just so many things that trouble me now going on in society and in this country. It just seems to be this sort of sickness running through society, which the media and the authorities are encouraging, if anything, and it's sort of disheartening, because you feel like there's nothing you can do about it, because all the powers that be are supporting this stuff and pushing this stuff through. There's no one you could vote for who's opposed to all the nonsense that's going on. But like I say, I don't want to get too negative in these videos, so let me know what you think about it all, if you'd rather I just shut up and focus on filming the forestry, or if there's a topic you'd want me to discuss in a future video. That could be interesting to get suggestions, as long as it's something that I actually have any idea about to have any opinions on. Sport, for instance, no point asking, over my head. So lovely and peaceful. Everything's loaded up, ready to go home. I've had these saddlebags here since 2008. That's a long time I've been using this. And it's starting to get a bit dirty and worn, but there's still a lot of life in them yet. Other than a bit of flat ground, there's not really any trace that I've been here. YouTube seemed to be burying my videos this year. Views on this channel and my toy review channel have completely tanked. I don't know if part of it's because YouTube have decided to make the search function almost obsolete now. I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, but if you search for something on YouTube, you get maybe 5 relevant results, and it just starts recommending random crap to you, which is burying a lot of people's videos, I'd imagine, if only 5 relevant search results are coming up. So you don't have the option to search through and find some of the more obscure channels, which is a shame. I don't know why YouTube are doing that, other than the mainstream media are trying to get in there and take control of YouTube now and bury content creators, independent content creators. It's so peaceful and relaxing out here. I'd like to stay longer, but I've got to get back. But hopefully, I mean, I really want to start doing videos like this every 2 or 3 weeks, but we'll see how it goes. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you again soon.